Okay, welcome to my 2025 year-end summary. Officially, I've been retired. I retired March of 2024. So this is my first full year. I've been on like a year and a half now. As of March, it'll be 2 years. But this is my first full 12-month financial cycle where I can do a January to December analysis. So that's what we're going to do. So, for those of you who haven't been on my channel, which is probably not that many at this point, this is my starting point of the plan as of right now. This is hopefully my ending point in the plan. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to do a summary of my income versus my expenses, just so you guys can get a feel for what happened. And it was good for me. I wanted to get a feel for what happened. I mean, it felt really good, but I hadn't really sat down and worked it out. So you'll see the first section of this is going to be income, and we'll get into Boldin and Right Capital in a few minutes, where I'll show you this money. Well, I'll show you my expenses mainly. And so you'll see I looked at my statements at the end of the year. I had moved money from a 401k to an IRA. So the statements were a little odd. I had to go back to statements instead of just being able to look at the dashboard. So you'll see my 401k in January at the end of 2024 was 1,443,000. As of today, it's 1,628,000. So I got earned 185,000 in there. So my wife's 403b, which I always call a 529. Thank goodness I don't have those years anymore, all the colleges except for one I paid off. Her 403b started at 191, 353. As of now, it's roughly 218,000. So she had 26,000 earnings. Then my money market account, which is basically just, 110,000. Oh, and just so you know, my portfolio, my IRA is really simple. It's 500,000, give her a few bucks, 500,000 in an IRA, like 120 something thousand. Like, don't add all this up, but you'll get the gist. In gold, 600,000 in the S&P 500, and then whatever's left in in the Nasdaq index. So that's what mine is. Hers is a little more complex because some advisors set it up, which makes it more complex. But so she made 26,000. My money market fund, which is basically just a CD that I put in. Oh, and I think I mentioned I have a $500,000 annuity in my IRA, and that's a fixed at 4.45. So the money market stuff is just cash stuff that I actually have in my bank, in a CD, which expires in January, which I don't know what I'm doing with it just yet. But so that was 110 at the beginning of the year, and it made 4,257. Should have made a little more than that, but whatever. It made at the end it was 114,257. So total 4,251. And then I have just this main savings feed that I keep miscellaneous money in. It's basically a transitory account where I put money in it and then I use it in super emergencies, which I generally don't have. And I feed that money. I use that to feed into next year's when I have to fund all my accounts for next year, which I'll be doing in January. So that had 42,000 in the beginning. It had 38,000 because I actually had to take money from it. I was paying vacations up front for next year. So I took money from that since that's what would be feeding 2026 anyhow. So it looks like it's a loss, but it really probably wasn't. It probably made me it should have made me roughly half of this because it's almost the same percent rate. So it probably made me a couple grand. But net, if you look at it, because I was paying some vacations that I had to pay up front, vacations I'm going to take in 2026, I had to pay in 2025. So that's why it came down, whatever the amount was, plus um, it took down what I earned, and it took down the what I had to pay. So because I had to pay for an Alaska cruise for next year, I paid my Jersey Shore up front. So it probably ended up being like 7, 8 grand, which kind of adds up. And then lastly, what did Beth actually take home last year, which is about 50 grand. That's her rough, maybe a little more, but that's her rough actual take home. Okay, so let's look at my expenses, which I do not do in a spreadsheet. I do it using Right Capital and Rocket app, stuff like that. So I'll show you that in a minute. So for 2025, if you look at my raw expenses, it's 95,000, 96,000 bucks. But if you look at some of this, you'll see I'm coming down a little cold. So You'll see that 6,500 of this was I prepaid some vacations. So that means whatever I do in 2026, that'll come down a little. So it wasn't my actual spending. And then my the way the phone, even though my kids are older, the way the phone works, they can't find a better deal on their own. Eventually they're gonna have to go. Like my one's 29, 27, 25, and 22. Eventually they're really gonna need to get their own plans. But for now, it's not a big deal. So they pay roughly $30 a month each. They when they graduate from college, they have to start paying their own phone bill, which is more than reasonable. And so that's $90 a month. So that means that's 1,080 over the year. So if you take the total of that, so you got 95,746 minus stuff that I either prepaid or stuff I got reimbursed from the kids, and that puts us at a total of 88,166. So cool thing is, if you look at the 2025 earnings I made in total, we made, including, did I include Beth's in this? No, I didn't include what Beth made. We made 215, almost 216,000 off of our investments, and we spent about 88,000. So as you all know, I don't follow 4% rule. I don't do any of that stuff. I follow a plan that we put together in Boldin and Right Capital. So let's go to my expenses real quick, and you can get a feel for that. So I keep track of my expenses in Right Capital because it does the best job. And I would probably use Right Capital a lot, but they don't let me show it in YouTube. So I'm just using this screen. I'm sure they won't have a problem with that. So you'll see that's where I get my expenses. It's 95,746. I just went into activity year to date. And basically these are hooked into my credit card and my bank account, which is where I try and keep everything. And I try and use one credit card through the whole year. So some highlights of 2025. The important thing what I try and do, which you could do too, is I try and match, is this number hitting my budgeted number? And I kind of got to do it in my head because I got to say what's the average times 12. But all that aside, let's just go here again. So let's just kind of look, I usually keep 12,000 in my lumpy spending, which is really cool. So our 88,000 spending, oh, no, that does include that because that doesn't include what I saved. So forget that, nix that. So I spent 1,200 bucks. That was roughly on the deck. I used house money to build the deck. House gas and electric is 5,600. That's a little more than I have budgeted. So if you look at house gas and electric, I have 350 a month. So 36, about 30, let's see, 300 times 12 would be 36. 50 times 12 is 6. So I have about 4,200 budgeted, but I'm spending 56, which kind of makes sense. Car gas, that's fine. No big deal there. Car insurance, no big deal. Food before kids leave is at like 1,100 a month, so that's right on the money. Out to eat pre 78, that's roughly right on the money. It's a little more because it's like I think I have it at 400 a month, so that's 4,800, but that's really no big deal. Vacation Wildwood. So the reason that's so expensive, that's 15,000, is because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm prepaying those 2026 vacations. Miscellaneous expenses. This is one of my margin accounts that I do 1,700 a month. So that's like 21,000. Let's see, 1,700 would be 12,000, would be 1,000 times 12 is 12,000. 700 times 12 is 96. So it's almost 20,000. And I only spent 10. So that's one of my margin accounts. It allows me to have things, go south. Gifts to family, that's actually a little more than usual. And there's also, we spent money at Macy's that I don't have tied to this, the Macy's card. But that was because of weddings. We had 3 or 4, maybe 4 weddings this year. And those are pretty substantial gifts. Clothing, car repairs, nothing. Animal expenses was a little high this year. There's our lovely people who don't live in New Jersey, 13,500 in property taxes. That's crazy. Nothing else crazy. This is probably off a little. I probably just forgot to file something. Homeowners insurance is 1,100. That's about right. World Vision, that's a gift, so that's fine. Oh, that's one that's kind of messing me up, and it just hit me another one yesterday. My out-of-pocket healthcare is a little low. It's a lot low. So I think I have $200 a month for 100 a month for out-of-pocket healthcare. And what I'm finding, it's not healthcare that's killing me, it's dental. Like my wife's teeth are costing me a lot of money, and our Delta Dental sucks. And this is through her work. So she just had a back tooth that has problems, and I guess they won't pay for a plant like Delta Dental won't pay for an implant. They just expect you to rip your tooth off and go without it, which sucks because if you do that, then all the other teeth start sliding back and then you just have more and more problems. So I don't know. I have this huge problem with dental insurance. Um, I'm certainly, when we buy dental insurance, I'm going to scrutinize it pretty heavily, but from what I'm told, it pretty much sucks. So, so that's my spending. Those are the highlights off of spending. That's pretty much everything. Because, like I said, I tie this to checking, and I primarily just use one credit card. I have like 5 credit cards, but I primarily use one. So, in general, that's the whole thing. Um, can't see it being too much interested in this today. Like I said, hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you have an awesome New Year's. In retirement, it's crystal clear. You really need 3 things, right? You need to know, you need money. That's the first thing you need. You need good investments. You need a plan, and you need to track your expenses and your income. So I guess that's 4 things. And it's real easy. I'm telling you, in Right Capital, for me to track my transactions that come through, it's a piece of cake. It's not hard at all, and it's so critically essential. That's what I'm looking for at the end of the year, so you can do these kind of comparisons. And what I should be doing, which I probably will do, is I'll take this out of pocket healthcare and I'll adjust all my plans accordingly. I'll bump it up and make sure it's not going to impact it. It's only going to be an extra 1,000 a year, but I'll go into all my plans and bump it up. But what's cool about this is I don't tend to bump these up. So when you look at your retirement plans, it's going to put 2026 and it's going to make it with inflation, and yet I'll be able to keep the same budgets. So until this thing goes off, I'm actually making my plan has a higher chance of success because I don't have to bump my stuff up for inflation. So okay, like I said, in summary, hey, thanks all you subscribers out there, all you viewers, I appreciate it so much. Oh yeah, just making sure my microphone was on. That would suck. Have a great New Year's. Hope you had a great Christmas, spending time with your family, and just enjoying it. Remember the reason for the season. Jesus Christ came to us and was born in a manger and died for our sins. So have a great time at New Year's. Maybe your New Year's resolution, if you don't have one, is to put a plan together and start planning. And I got plenty of videos on how you can get the software. So take care. Enjoy.